in those early industries that I like, Web3 is still quite early, and like working here is still like a bit of a bet for the future. Like, right, you can still look quite stupid to your like friends, family, and like colleagues if you like go from your standard job to like Web3.
Hi everyone, and welcome yet to another episode of NEWFORUM, and we're always excited to bring you awesome guests on our podcast. NEWFORUM is a community podcast inviting visionaries, creators, and investors to spark accessible conversations on the topics of crypto, the metaverse, NFTs, and everything Web3. And on today's episode, I'm super happy to have with me Wojtek. He's the founder of Mazurxyz, a Web3 platform for discovering talent, and he's also a delegate at Optimism Governance. And I'm super stoked to talk with him about Web3, open data ethos, remote talent discovery problems, as well as decentralized identities in Web3. Hi, Wojtek. I'm super happy to have you on today.
Hello. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, so I want to know, like, first off, what is your background and how did you venture into the Web3 space? I always like to start off with that question.
Of course. So I'm a software engineer. Was doing that for the past 4 years. I was like freelancing out in the world. And 1 year prior to jumping full-time into crypto, I had my own, software development agency. So I have a background in being hired for a lot of projects and hiring for software projects. And by the moment I discovered crypto right after DeFi summer in 2020, I got the most excited about how can we improve how can we work in an anonymous way, and how can you prove your identity with just like private keys, and how can you preserve your identity as just like an Ethereum address or like an ENS name. And the moment I decided, like after discovering crypto, half of a year later, I knew that I want to work in crypto full time. Had an opportunity to start my own project, and since the beginning I knew it's going to be a resolving around decentralized identity. It's going to be around like social media in crypto, and like how can we, and additionally how can we work with here with like talent, like finding people, showing off the credentials and others. So yeah, that's my brief crypto story.
That's super interesting, because I feel like I haven't met anyone who's really focusing on that side of the Web3 space. What are the current issues with that, or what are some of the issues that you see?
Yeah, it's pretty fresh, mostly because crypto, like historically, and like still mostly is like, it's this pure financial vehicle. Since the creation of like Bitcoin, you want to have this this double spending prevention and like other use cases of that. And then since we have like Ethereum, like we can now like program this money, and like we can create all those other tokens, etc. For most of the people, crypto right now is like still like super financial. It's not at all about identity. But at the same time, what crypto adoption brings to the world is suddenly everybody that has like a Web3 wallet, like a crypto wallet, MetaMask, Rainbow, Argent, or whatever there is, can use something in the line of like a PGP cryptography, which is like this very nerdy thing of like nerds just authenticating themselves across different, forums and like social media. You have just one key, and like you sign messages with this one key, just as you sign a message with a crypto wallet, and all your friends across different websites know that that's you. This is also how we know that Satoshi Nakamoto like never came back, and like nobody's claiming that there are Satoshi. They cannot do it because nobody can use Satoshi's private key. So yeah, this unlock coming from the adoption of wallets allows everybody to use the same level of like, identifying themselves. You don't need to go for like, logging with Facebook. You don't need to use your Google identity. You can just use your MetaMask identity, which is derived from your private key that only you hold. Like nobody can ban you from using your private key. So yeah, it's like a very, very fresh field of like people realizing that you can do that. You can like sign into a website just with like signing a message. You don't need to do like any transactions in blockchain to do that. It's just like you verifying yourself that, oh, you own this address. This address may hold some NFTs, maybe some, credentials, maybe some achievements, some history, but that's it. That's like the whole story to that. So I don't really remember the question. I just wanted to say that to introduce like this field is like super new. So yeah, like there's not many of us working on it yet, but I have many friends thinking about it 24/7, and I hope something nice will happen soon.
Yeah, I think for me, we come from this job market or this traditional world where you hand in your CV, you talk about your skills, all these things. And this idea of decentralized identities is really, really new. And like, what are there's obvious benefits for people, like, for example, females or of different minorities have like, obviously it harder in the job market sometimes, maybe consciously, maybe unconsciously.
Yeah.
And so could you tell me like what are the pros and cons of having these decentralized identities?
Let's start with that. So like decentralized identities, what are decentralized identities? It's like you can just like get a random number and identify yourself as like holder of this random number. That's like your seed phrase and you have the wallet. So that's the source of your identity. And now like, outcomes of that is that you can work anonymously. So something that you just mentioned, that you can avoid bias of like, you are of certain upbringing, you have some certain history, but right now you're anonymous, maybe you don't take your whole personality and your whole history to a certain job. You only show as much as you want to show. So that's one advantage, like you can avoid this bias. The other advantage can be that you may want to work in like a certain fields. And I feel like, we don't know each other that well, but, I just like glance over your socials. I know that you're DJing. I know you do something around fashion and like also like, Web3 podcast. So maybe these are like quite related, but, maybe also like you want to have, them separated. You don't want to DJ as like a Web3 influencer person, or here you may not appreciate me doing those comments because like you want to be separated from like your DJ profession and your podcasting thing. So in the world where you can like spin out like new identity for any of those things, you can again like work in those different environments with like totally different set of biases and backgrounds. And people do that right now already. That's like an existing behavior. So, people set up like Twitter alts, so like alternative accounts. People set up, like different like Reddit posts or like Discord accounts and like try to like have those different identities. But it's all a hack. And like we can quite easily create this whole ecosystem when like creating an identity that is like provable and like that you can provable move from one platform to another and like bring your own experiences. You create that very natively with crypto wallets. So we have those two advantages, maybe like lack of bias and more of the different identities. And maybe I would also like to bring another one, maybe not coming like straight up from like anonymity, but just taking all your data. So if you go to LinkedIn right now, you create like your profile and you fill out some data. And then like you go to like a freelancer platform like Upwork or TopTal or whatever, like wherever you want to work. These platforms are usually not really connected and their modes are owning your data. So, LinkedIn doesn't want to share the data with anybody because they charge recruiters a lot of money for like access to this data. And the same if you go to work on Upwork or TopTal, like the work history from there, like it's impossible to like access it through any API because they use it to build trust with their clients. And like if I can like get this work history from this platform somewhere else, they lose business this way. So just for a random user, if you have this identity in an open web on Web3, in Web3, like you have everything assigned to your Ethereum address or like whatever blockchain address. And you can take this data from open APIs of those different platforms, because that's this open API ethos is is also super important. Then like you can automatically, get all the benefits and like all you can use all your data across different platforms immediately. So maybe next time you sign in to like a LinkedIn competitor, for example, Mazuri, I'm taking my book right now, like you have like all your achievements and all your work history or your referrals already out there. And this is like definitely a better UX in this situation.
This sounds super useful. I talked to a lot of people on this podcast who said they don't want to be out there. Sometimes they don't even show up on camera because they don't want to be out there. And I totally understand it. And what you explained as well, like you might have multiple interests. You might be a crypto whale, but you also do, I don't know, sewing or golfing on the side, and you're a pro in that. And,
yeah.
Or DJ like I do. And you might not want these things to be connected. And I always have like, how do I even start this? Like being anonymous, how do I start? Like, I'm very jealous of these people who have like these massive Twitter on an account.
Yeah.
They're just like nailing
they can post whatever, they don't care.
Yeah, and it's obviously they can disappear as well. Like that's another con. Like you can just, there's projects, obviously we heard of that, NFT projects and things where people just, okay, I'm out here, I'm bye. And
that's the problematic side, right? Like lack of accountancy is a lack of accountability is something else. But yeah, like it's for the anonymous side, that's a clear benefit that they can disappear without any accountability.
Yeah, and for me, it's fascinating how you can create a whole persona around like somebody who's not even showing their face. I think it's fascinating. But I guess it's like you see it in pop culture when people wear masks and all these things when they do music. I'm wondering, so if I come to the job market, to the Web3 job market, and I sign up to your platform, can you walk me through a bit like how the process works?
Quite important caveat is that we just launched like our Web3 resume, so like those Web3 profile pages. We launched search. We didn't launch like the full hiring flow yet, so it's quite hard to be like hired through Mazuri, like purely hired through Mazuri yet. We work with our partners. We do a lot of like manual work of like sourcing candidates and like talking to people. But right now, if you go to Mazuri, you can connect your wallet, and you will have your profile. And depending on like your on-chain history and your actions in like other applications, you will have like a certain set of credentials already there. So for example, if you're using Popes, obviously you have your Popes there. We have our own badges that reflect like membership in certain communities, that reflect some like tiny coding proficiency. For example, like if you deploy the contract, you will like mark you, and like we will give you a badge for that as well. And like we're continuously working on like on implementing more on aggregating and implementing more protocols. So for example, next in line we have Gitpope, which is like moving your GitHub history to your Ethereum identity, so like you can display your GitHub comments. And then based on that, like we can also like find people and like search them for jobs. We are doing integrations soon with BuildSpace. We already have like a tiny integration with them, but BuildSpace is also this amazing project where you can like do some projects like in the form, they don't like this word, but in the form of courses. You can just like follow in an instructor, build something, and connect with others with building. And they issue NFT certificates that we at Mazuri, then we can also like aggregate, index, and like show our recruiters that somebody finished a Solana course or finished something else. We have like a set of other partners that do similar stuff in terms of like issuing NFT credentials or like certificates to their user, to their students, etc., etc. And yeah, like in the process as we are building this, and you are collecting some of those certificates, credentials, NFTs on the way, your profile will also be automatically built out. You can also like refer somebody else on the platform, so like you can vouch for them, you can give them a referral. So for example, I can like give a referral to you that you do a good podcast, you have like a vast knowledge of Web3 topics, etc. And it's gonna be reflected in your decentralized identity. Right now, the core value proposition for our like more advanced users, or like for hiring users, is the search engine. So if you go to like the landing page right now, Mazuri.xyz, you'll be able to use the search and like immediately find some front-end developers who have Web3 experience. You can find smart contract developers or designers working in Web3. And yeah, it's quite a powerful tool for finding new contributors. We're obviously like still quite far away from like just having full flow that you can onboard yourself, you can come and hire anybody you want, or as a talent you come and you immediately have a beautiful profile, because obviously like it's not like everybody has like 10 different NFT certificates right now. We're still very early in that. I feel like you also asked what are like the problems with this world right now. So like user experience is definitely out there. Like signing everything with a wallet is super clunky, etc. But yeah, we believe that this is the future of authentication, and like like using your data over the internet. And yeah, this is what we're working on.
I think this is so important, because I always have people ask me, how do I even start? How do I get involved? Like, how do I get hired, or how do I get a job? And there's not really anything out there yet really taking care of that part, as far as I know. So I think this is really exciting for, freelancers and people who really want to get their game on in Web3. And from your perspective, like working in the space, also being a software engineer, like what do you think are the most important skills like right now when it comes to the job market? Because I feel like obviously we're right now in the bear market. Everyone is kind of like a bit on a riding the
it's not that easy. Yeah,
we want to motivate people out here. And yeah, like what is something that is really for you, like what skills or maybe also personality traits are really important when you working in Web3?
Yeah, so I feel like in those early industries that I like, Web3 is still quite early, and like working here is still like a bit of a bet for the future. Like, right, you can still look quite stupid to your like friends, family, and like colleagues if you like go from your standard job to like Web3, and like it's gonna be a fade in 3 years. So people will laugh at you and like say, oh, you followed the hype and like you lost this time. So it's still like a bet, and like as long as this is a bet, just like a curiosity and drive is probably like the most important piece that will distinguish you across like other candidates. Like many people, for example, want to come to crypto from like more traditional backgrounds, and like they apply to some DeFi protocol or like some very crypto native company, and they like literally never use, like they did no transaction on like any blockchain, or like they only bought like Bitcoin on Coinbase. And right now, most of the, like with tools like Mazuri, most of those companies can like very easily like verify that oh, you actually never like touched it, you never touched it, you're not really curious, you're only following the hype. But yeah, if you like played with some of those tools, you have some like history of like just being curious and like checking stuff out, you will be able to prove it. And like right now, like a few years ago, like the barrier to entry was definitely much higher. Like to prove yourself that you're curious, like you would like have to like get into the coding, probably like very advanced coding. Those tools were really primitive a few years ago, and like the barrier to entry was like actually really high. And right now, you can go to I mentioned already like build space, and like you will have like an overview, for example, for an overview of like a example Web3 project. And right now I'm talking like more about on the coding side, but like analogically on like anything on like media side, on the marketing side, you can show your participation by like owning NFTs or like just contributing to different forums. So point number one, curiosity and like drive into like building this new future would be the most important. And yeah, honestly, right now, a lot of like hiring is based like 100% on that. Like I can like start talking about like some hard skills in like programming or like, some specific industries. But right now it's still just, oh, like go use those tools that you want to build. Like tell us what do you think about them, and like how would you improve them? And like this and then like the combination of like the like more standard industry experience, for example, the knowledge of like UX patterns and some maybe software optimization and like growth hacks, with like the combination of this experience and this like crypto curiosity will probably get you like really far. So this is how I would think about it.
So go ahead, go on Twitter and go through GitHub and get your hands dirty, and then you can, after
as always, like nothing new has been said here.
Yeah, and also I feel like if you're good communicating with people is really valuable. Like if you're a software engineer or if you're a product manager and you can't like coordinate with a team or something, I feel like you really have a disadvantage. So
and like in this new world, like it's even more important because most of like, especially DAOs, but like most of the startups is like fully remote as well. So you need to be like really clear in communicating, asynchronously and like writing and like putting yourself out there. Like just showing up to work or like just like being out there doesn't really matter. It's much more like, contribution based system when you actually need to always like prove that you did something, that you contributed here and there. It's also like much better for people that are like doers. For example, like me, I dropped out of college like in my first year, rather than just people that want to show what they did in the past, and like they want to just like ride of their credibility. So yeah, just like doing and contributing is the best way to jump in.
It's funny because we had a professor on from a university in London, and she was like, these courses are so like, some of the courses are so outdated, like
yeah.
he's talking about fashion and metaverse, and like we were like, we don't know anything about this right now. We don't even know what to teach students,
Yeah. But like this is super important for like to connect now this curiosity and experience from traditional world. So yeah, it's a lot to build.
You touched on DAOs, and from your perspective, I had like so many people saying right now, DAOs are the future, and then others are like, no, it's more like communities, like it's nothing new, la 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 la. And from your experience, like from your perspective, what do you think about DAOs, and how is this like affecting workers, kind of?
I don't want to get canceled, but I'm just gonna say that I'm not like so enthusiastic about like the concept of like DAOs changing the world. DAOs are really good in distributing some capital, some power of like just like making collective decisions. I wouldn't say DAOs are good for like building anything new. Like just the lack of hierarchy and like disorganization, etc. It's like it usually comes down to like few motivated people that push everything forward, and like a lot of people that just like want to help, but like maybe they don't communicate properly, or they don't, or maybe they're not like qualified enough, or they have like different ideas and they don't really stick. So the collaboration in DAOs is hard, and therefore I'm not super excited about like DAOs building new stuff, or like DAOs buying up constitutions, besides like this like initial hype. Like this is like I don't think this paradigm will stick. However, DAOs proved already like to be really good at like deciding what collectively like is a good decision of a group, like what serves in the interest of a group. And an example of that would be like I like doing this example. So you have like Facebook. Like Facebook was founded in 2004, and for like first 10 years it was like a fast growing startup. Mark Zuckerberg and the company had to do a lot of like decisions to like grow very fast, to build something which was like, maybe right now you can criticize Facebook, but in early years it was like revolutionary, something extremely cool. You can connect with like whoever you want in the world. And let's say in 2014 we reached this point where Facebook grew to a point where everybody's using it. Everybody loves being on Facebook for some reasons. Like I think in 2014 we still loved being on Facebook. I'm gonna shoot like that. Right now I'm not on Facebook anymore, but like in 2014 we loved it, and that was like this like inflection point where it's no longer like a startup that needs to grow at all costs, like build and iterate with the users, etc. It's more like right now it's like a good in the world. Everybody like appreciates it. Everybody wants it. At this point, it's like you just like don't want to fuck up, and like at this point, for the collective good, you want to like together decide what's the future of the platform. It's like it's not gonna move so fast. It doesn't have to optimize for, like in this new model, it doesn't have to optimize for profits, but it should be good for all the users. And in the world where in 2014 Mark Zuckerberg decides that, oh, we don't actually need to produce cash flow, so we don't need to produce money. Like I am this philanthropic person that just wants to give away this like Facebook platform to the world. Like Mark Zuckerberg in 2014 could create a DAO to redistribute the ownership of like the Facebook platform, where everybody now can like decide and like what's the next step, what should we do, like should we maybe not like implement like very single features, but maybe something like should like this controversial politician be on Facebook or not, should we punish this behavior or not, etc. Because like Facebook is this common good that everybody wants to govern. And if you think why we are not on Facebook right now, it's because I would guess that the culture of the platform shifted. It's just like based for like the platform right now is like made for different users. Like there's a lot of ads. It's supposed to just like drive engagement and sell ads. And what's gonna drive engagement is probably something like controversial, etc. And like we are not interested in that. We're interested in connecting with our friends. So we have new platforms, and this happens because the company has to generate profit, etc. And it's like capitalism. It's okay. I love capitalism. But in this like again like coming back in the past, in 2014, doing like DAO out of Facebook could result in this like system where Mark Zuckerberg and the private and the public entity, the public company on the stock market don't get that much profits, but we create this common public good, which is like Facebook the platform right now, or like it would be in that scenario. So yeah, I believe DAOs are good for distributing or like governing over stuff. They're not really good for like building anything. To summarize, I would love to see Facebook at the early stages, like to still be a normal company and like use Mark Zuckerberg's genius and drive to build this. And at some point, as a human, as a user of the platform, I would love to see like this being distributed and like governed by the people instead of being used by profits, which is obviously still really good. I like capitalism in like this sense. So yeah, this is how I view DAOs.
Interesting. Yeah, I think like you touched on very good things. There's right now I see two DAOs. Like there's either the investing DAO or like a community kind of DAO, like more for let's say social purposes, or there's the product DAO, like focused on building something. And it seems like the investing DAOs right now are taking the race. I don't know. It just seems like from an outer perspective, they're taking a bit of the front stand, or they're kind of doing the right thing. And like what you said with these, for me, this is like so interesting because I, as a user, I use like apps as well, like on a daily basis, we use all these apps like Twitter, Instagram, whatever. And you can see like these users, how they move. They might not like a feature and they just go to the next platform, and that is then the platform. And then they try to replicate the same feature on the same app, but it doesn't work like that. The user's like, no, like I don't want this. And it's like, if that would be a DAO, I'm always wondering if they could decide, because obviously we as the user on these massive platforms, we don't really have a say so in like what features they implement. But that's like what I realized with my friends. Like right now there's this app called Be Real or something, and now everyone is doing that.
I love Be Real.
And then and in the next 5 months and I'm like, these social media platforms, they're really a high risk thing, because it seems like every year or every 2 years they just get replaced with another feature or better, like, and yeah, I don't know, it's interesting.
I don't think DAOs like have anything to do with that. It's like more like like constant fight for attention, just as you have like new TV shows and new brands, like new apps want to have your attention, and then product managers from like different apps just like want to have this feature implemented because it works there. So maybe I don't know.
maybe you could say, hey, like if the users could actually say, hey, I want this instead of this, or I have a share, like if I have a social media platform and I put all of my heart and content out there, like there's all my friends,
Yeah.
I should have a say so in what's
yeah, definitely.
So
definitely. And for that, I believe, DAO governance could be really, it could be like really good new user experience if the actual users get to actually decide on the features. Because right now the system is that you have your, let's say, Twitter, like you have like 100 or maybe even like 1,000 product managers in Twitter. I don't know what they're doing, but they are supposed to listen to user feedback, and then they need to like combine that with like the business goals. So like what will drive the engagement, what will drive like the revenue up in the long term. So maybe this question about like DAOs comes like more towards like incentives. So like if we have this like piece of infrastructure that like maybe we make enough money to break even, so like we can pay for servers, we can pay for like maintenance and like employee costs. So what do we do now? Should we like drive more engagement and revenue, or like should we like optimize for the current user satisfaction? So I don't think like here like DAOs make any difference. It's just like a matter of like optimization. If like the company wants to be like a non-profit organization rather than a company, they can start like listening more to the user feedback and like optimizing for user satisfaction by themselves. But maybe it would be like more natural in a DAO world as well, where like we can all decide that, oh, we actually don't need to make so much money on it, on that. We can just just focus on like our well-being and doing the right thing on the platform.
Yeah, we shall see. I mean, we're gonna see which projects are gonna stick or what's gonna happen. I'm excited to see. Thank you so much, Wojtek, for joining me today. And I'm wondering, where can our community find you on your social platforms?
Of course. So I'm mostly on Twitter at Wojtek WTF, Wojtek what the fuck, and on Mazurxyz. So MAZURYXYZ is our social. These are our socials on Twitter, and of course Mazuri.xyz in like web browser, like the standard URL.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, all community members, please check that out. And thank you everyone for being part of today's forum. If you also want to get more involved in what we're doing, make sure to follow us on Twitter. We are NEWFORUM_NCO and also NewCoin.
Yes.
And
do that.
And become part of our cool community, because I think we're growing a cool community. And don't forget to join our Discord, and I'm going to leave all of Wojtek's link as well as our links in the bio. And thank you so much for being part today, Wojtek. I think this was so cool. And yeah, I see you guys in the next episode.